Good morning. Welcome back to the Retirement Report. I'm Hank Parrott, your host, and with me my special guest, good friend Jack McCann with McCann and Hubbard over in Franklin, Tennessee. And Jack, what's the name of your title company, by the way?
It's just McCann and Hubbard. We're actual lawyers, so we can just work under our names, McCann and Hubbard.
So if you have anything related to real estate, and this is where we get into some areas that, have you ever dealt with one of those property lines and such, you know, we get into that.
Oh, boundary line disputes, sure.
Yeah, so this is an area, I mean, there's so many, when you're retiring, and here's something, by the way, if you're getting a property, and this is something I run into now and then, where you're inheriting something, and maybe it has to be divided. All of a sudden property lines come into play. All of a sudden getting it surveyed and the potential for argument. So there's a lot of pre-planning, if you will, or when I say pre-planning, planning for those things, imagining what could happen. And that's why when you come in to see us, when we're doing a comprehensive plan, when I meet with clients for the first time, one of the areas there is we're talking about all the different factors, all the different things that are going to impact you in retirement. So when we're talking about Social Security and Medicare, and of course your investments, and what type of return are you going to need to attain your goals? What's the needed rate of return on your money? Do you even know the answer to that question? A lot of us, it's like, well, I want to make as much as I can, but if we knew the risk we were taking on with that in a potential down market and how that could totally ruin our plans for retirement, this is kind of important, and now's the time. We're in the longest bull market in history. This is a great time to take a look and get an assessment and analysis of your investments done to see, in fact, you know, what risks are there. You know, when that next win, right, be very clear, when, not if, when that next bear market occurs, are you going to be able to weather that without having to stop your plans in place? In other words, one of the things, I went to a conference, I remember this from a couple of years ago, and oh my gosh, I was so disappointed because they're talking about investment, they're talking with a lot of investment advisors from around the country. And one of the things they're saying is that in a downturn of a market, right, what do? They say, well, you'll need to have your clients maybe stop taking income. What? What kind of plan is that? Stop taking income? So hey, if there's a problem in the job market, you shouldn't get a paycheck? When you're in retirement, the money that you're pulling out of your retirement accounts and out of your investments, that is in fact your paycheck, right, in retirement. To imagine that someone's just saying, yeah, the best plan is just to tell them to stop taking money out until the market comes back and then they'll be okay. Horrible plan. There are ways, in fact, that you can get the income you need at retirement, right, no matter what's going on with the market. There are ways to, when we're doing planning, we're factoring in. We don't know when the next bear market's going to be, but we know there is going to be one. And so we're going to plan for it. We're going to say, okay, here's the income. Here's where I'm going to put this money that I'm going to need for income in that event, to make sure it's going to be there, it's not going to be interrupted. And yes, if I've got monies that are invested in the market, maybe more aggressively, I can do that because I got this income piece taking care of me through a market downturn. A lot of different strategies that can be employed to that. One of these, going back, Jack, to the real estate thing, I kind of got off on a little bit of a tangent there.
That's all right.
But you were saying as far as the real estate and the spin down piece of that, or using real estate when you retire for, you know, getting money out, that the potential problems that could be with that. And there's some other things. We talked about a reverse mortgage is one way people use, and I know you're not a fan of, and I'm not. This is something that's very niche in terms of, you know, a very small percentage of people are going to benefit from that. But I'll let you take it from, well, you want to talk about the spin down piece or the reverse mortgage piece first?
Well, I mean, I was going to talk.
Real estate in other states.
Yeah, so I happen to know a few people who have decided to start buying vacation homes. Maybe it's a part-time vacation home, maybe it's investment property that you're looking at for a good 10 or 15 years of return. But if you're getting property in another state, whether it's Florida or Alabama or even a hunting property in Arkansas, the best thing to have is a trust to own all this real estate, because the general rule is you're going to do probate in every state where you have real estate. And some states have really unique rules. For example, in Alabama, your executor can only deal with the real estate if you have a specific clause in the will or trust talking about that, giving that authority. So there's things that you want to have an experienced estate planner work on those things with you. But I'm a big fan of using a trust to own the real estate, because that way you don't have to do probate in those other states. You just are dealing with the state where you resided, where your family is, and you only have to deal with one executor, one trustee.
It's one of the areas, by the way, you know, when it comes to investing in real estate, and if you're talking about having properties, whether it's a vacation home or whether it's going, and maybe you inherit property that's in another state. I have a number of clients that have inherited farmland, for instance, in numerous states around, from Pennsylvania to Iowa and Wisconsin, and you name it. And the factors that come in here, and you can accumulate over a lifetime. You might have a vacation home down in Florida. You might have this family farm that you know inherited that you own as well. Maybe you've got a couple of rental properties, and maybe you lived in another state and you kept the house there and rented it out when you moved, and you know it worked out and you just kept it. All of a sudden you've got 3 or 4 states involved with real estate in different states, and that means different probates each time. And imagine, God forbid, that you should, I mean, we've seen many instances, and I can, you know, Steve McNair was one, of course, when he passed, that he had property in many states, did not have a will, and the whole thing of intestate laws, but not just intestate laws in Tennessee, but I think it was Mississippi as well.
Yeah, that's right.
And now you're getting into state plans differ depending on the state as well, and you can get conflicts and
and he had minor children that cause problems. That's what we were talking about earlier, how the court is going to be involved whether you want them to be or not because there's minor children.
This is how expensive it can get, and it's so, this is that penny wise pound foolish again, right? The old commercial, remember that about getting your oil changed? You know, you can pay me now or pay me later. If you don't spend a little bit to change the oil and maintain your car, it blows up. These are when it comes to your estate, let's not have that happen to you. Again, for the first 10 callers to my office, you want to have us take a look at your estate plan and help you and develop the right estate plan for your family, for your personal situation, then be one of the first 10 callers, 615-376-5325. Tess is standing by. She'll get your information. She'll send you out a packet of things to bring to your appointment with me. And when you come in to see me, again, it's not just you know, have a cup of coffee and answer a couple of questions. I'm going to do up a plan for you. We're going to get into talking to you about Social Security and Medicare, income planning. We're going to talk about other income sources that you may have available, maybe pensions and how those work. And what about the tax implications on pensions, on Social Security, on your investment accounts? People just spend thousands, tens of thousands of dollars, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars wasted paying taxes that they don't have to pay if they just did a little planning. So that's part of it, of course. And as I said, we get into investment, how the smart money invests, IRAs, how to take money out and minimize taxes, estate planning, long-term care is another factor. You know, what's your plan in that situation? Have you considered different options? There's some great ways that we can cover the long-term care that's very inexpensive and in some instances costs you nothing at all. It's just a matter of understanding how the rules work. And the next piece, of course, estate planning, and this is where you want to basically determine what do you want to have happen to your stuff while you're living and what do you want to have happen when you're gone. And for most of us, that's about keeping it in the bloodline, how best to do that, and in thinking of ways that we can maybe pass on some protection features to the next generation. So all of that is part of that planning. So again, first 10 callers, 615-376-5325, and I'll look forward to seeing you. Okay, let's see what else you got on your list. Reverse mortgages. We were going to talk about. Now I'm going to set this up a little bit because I have used reverse mortgages, but at the same time, I agree with Jack. That doesn't mean that that's good in every situation, and there are many times when it would be a very bad thing to do. And by the way, I'm going to make a little quick note to myself about REITs as well. I want to talk to you about because when it comes to real estate and investing in real estate, those are factors as well. But reverse mortgages, now we're talking about how can I get income in retirement as a last resort, is the way I'll set this up. As a last resort, we typically look at a reverse mortgage. And even then, it's not necessarily the best. There are other options available to you. But I'm going to let Jack talk about some of the negatives, and then we'll say we might show some exceptions to the rules as we go.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of reverse mortgages. I will admit that there is a value to them and that they can be used sometimes very effectively. The problem is, similar to the mutual fund market, there's 1,000 or more mutual funds out there. There's 1,000 or more different kinds of reverse mortgages. And the concept, in general, is a good concept. The problem is that most of the companies out there know that they're basically preying on people who have lost their ability to fairly evaluate or never were that savvy about investments in the first place. So in my experience, because where I end up with the reverse mortgages is usually after mom or dad has died. The reverse mortgage was put in place by the parent, and now they've passed away, and we've got a child who's trying to inherit this house. And what I've learned over the years is that most of these reverse mortgages, not all of them, but most of them have a lot of hidden fees. They are set up where it's easy to get the thing started, but once you're in it, you can't get back out of it again. They don't want you to pay off this reverse mortgage. They don't want you to, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, we're going to take a break. We got up against a break. I hate to interrupt you, but I want to, when it comes to the reverse mortgage, we're going to come right back to that as soon as we come out of the break, because we want to get into this about the different ones, because that's the key is, as Jack said, there's some that can be very, very expensive, how to shop for a reverse mortgage, and whether, again, doing an analysis, see if are there in fact maybe better ways to do it. We'll get into that as soon as we come back. Join us here. We'll be right back on the Retirement Report.